All right. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is John Gator coming to you live from Wellington, and today's date is the 23rd of August. And looking forward to having the opportunity to talk with you guys a little bit more. And so, for our agenda today, we're going to be covering the Board of Trustees meeting that happened this last Tuesday, and then we're also going to go over the agenda for the upcoming Board of Trustees meeting that will be happening this coming Tuesday. And then we will be having a little bit of a discussion as well, going over a couple of things in regards to the water and the upcoming potential increases that we're looking at here in Wellington. And so to look forward to talking to you guys about all of that. Just as a reminder, everything I do share here on the podcast is my opinion. I do not speak for the Board of Trustees. I do not speak for the town of Wellington. I speak only for myself. And so just always do like to remind everyone of that. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw those into the chat, and I would be happy to answer those to the best of my ability. So with that, we are going to go ahead and get things started. And so the first thing that we're going to go over is the agenda from the board meeting for the 18th of August. And for that meeting, this was a special meeting, and the reason being this is the third Tuesday of the month. That's normally a work session. And the board actually was voting on an issue for that, and so that was actually identified as a special meeting and posted as such, meaning that the board would actually be making decisions at that meeting. So as we scroll down here, you can see the items that we had on the agenda. So we had an intergovernmental agreement with Larimer County for 2020 election, and so that presentation was made by Mr. March, the town attorney. And then we did also have an executive session, which was in regards to instructing negotiators relative to matters involving Poudre School District and construction of the new high school. And you can see everything that's there. So just to clarify, if you haven't gone through or don't understand how executive sessions work or general board meetings, the board is only allowed to make decisions that are binding to the town in public meetings. Those are not allowed to happen in private meetings. Those are not allowed to happen in executive sessions. So what we had here in this meeting, we did have an item here where we were making a decision on the intergovernmental agreement with Larimer County for the 2020 election, and this was in regards to the citizen initiatives that have been brought forth and are currently going through the process of verification. And those are items that if the town board chooses to, Christine's asking if I can make things louder. I'll do the best that I can. I got my stuff set up and realized that my children were messing with my microphone setup, and so the audio is probably going to be coming through a little quieter today, so I do apologize for that. I found out that my audio is low about 5 minutes before we went live. But hopefully I just made an adjustment that might help a little bit. So if it does, great. If it doesn't, I apologize for the lower audio. But as I mentioned, I will be working to bring that up if I can in the future. But moving on to the intergovernmental agreement. So that was basically the two questions the board was faced with was, do we try to put the issues that our town is facing on the ballot with everything else? So we have a presidential election and everything like that. Do we try to just put that on the county ballot that Larimer County is already putting out, or do we run our own separate election in which we would deal specifically with these citizen initiatives? And so in this case, there's two citizen initiatives. One of those is the legalizing marijuana, so legalizing the sale and I believe also the production or manufacturing of marijuana inside of Wellington, which are currently not allowed by town code. And then the second initiative was putting a tax in place in relation to if that marijuana were to be legalized. So those would be going on to a citizen initiative. Those would be going from citizen initiatives to a actual vote. And so as we were looking at things, we're basically told it would cost us upwards of $20,000 on the low end to participate on the Larimer County election and to actually have our items featured. And our town clerk said that she feels that she can run an election for much less than that 20,000 number if we were to just run our own special election. And so the decision made by the board at the board meeting was that we will just run our own election concurrently, so it will still be at the same time. It will be a mail-in ballot. So so for those of you that live here in Wellington, just keep that in mind. You will be receiving 2 ballots, and one will be your presidential and Lick County ballot. It will contain all of that. You will receive a separate second ballot that will deal specifically with the citizen initiatives here in Wellington. So I would encourage you to please make sure you vote on both. Don't just forget one and vote on the other, but vote on both of those so that your voice can be heard on the issue. So that was a decision the board actually made. And then the executive session the board went into was having conversations with town staff that are working on and are acting as negotiators as we're working out details with Hoover School District. And so that was an opportunity for the board to chat with town staff and give them instructions. No decisions are allowed to be made in executive session. So what that is, it's something where the board can talk to town staff, discuss things that may need to be discussed in private because it's dealing with negotiations. But that way town staff now has direction as far as, okay, this is what we should be looking towards. Once they reach an agreement, then that decision actually comes back to the board to make an official decision, but no official decisions are made. This was a very short agenda, and the reason for that being that we were supposed to have a joint work session with the Wellington Fire Protection District. And they are, not thankfully in the sense that it's happening, but thankfully they are out fighting to protect homes with all the wildfires that we have going on in Colorado right now. So obviously our chief of fire and their staff are incredibly busy right now. So we obviously put off that work session. And so we'll just ask all of you to keep our first responders in your prayers as they're dealing with these fires, as well as just citizens who may live up in the area, as well as citizens that live around, because I know there's been a lot of smoke from that. So just ask that you keep people in your prayers as we're going through this. So that was the board meeting from last week. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I would be happy to answer them for you guys. And then let's go over the board meeting or the agenda for this upcoming Tuesday. So this will be another meeting at 6:30. It will be on Zoom, which is currently how our meetings are running. And you can see the link is here, as well as the webinar ID and phone call and information. And you can see our agenda here. As always, there is opportunity for public comment at the beginning of the meeting. So if you have something that you would like to bring up to the board that is not on this list of items we're going to be discussing, then you are welcome to go in and please bring that item up to the board's attention. And then after that, we will have our consent agenda. And just as a reminder of how the consent agenda works, those items are generally not discussed. It's just voted on the board to accept the items that are on the consent agenda. Generally, it is as you see right now, it's just minutes. But there are, on occasion, other items that will be added to the consent agenda. But as a reminder that any member of the board or of the public can ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda, and it does have to be removed. So if there's an item that you see at any point that's on the consent agenda and you feel it is important that you have an opportunity to share something with the board before they make a decision, you can just let them know, let either the board know, the town administrator, or the town attorney know that you'd like to have that item removed from the consent agenda, so it will be opened up for public comment. So this week it's just the minute meetings from our July 14th and our July 15th board meetings, and those were, we had to cancel the first and rerun it the next day because we were having challenges with technology. So thankfully we were able to run that, but those minute meetings are on there. And, oh no, I apologize. No, that was a separate meeting. The July 14th and 15th, one was a regular meeting. The second was our liquor license review board that was for Sol de Jalisco. Sherelle is asking, do we know who has brought the request to legalize the sale of pot here in Wellington? Sherelle, the specific people I do not know. I believe, I don't know exactly how that works as far as being able to view the petition, but I do believe there is a way that you can ask the town clerk, and she can get you some more information about the specifics of those citizen initiatives. As far as what information is publicly available, I do not know the answer to that. I do not personally know the names of organizations or anyone who did that. I just know that they have been brought forth, but I do not know any specifics on who it was or organizations that were behind it. But that would be a great question to ask the town clerk. Her name is Crystal. If you'd like, I can get her information and get that over to you so that you can ask her any questions, because there is opportunity. There's a period where citizens can actually come in and ask questions about what's going on, or ask questions about the process before things do go out to the voters in November. So if you, I'll try to pull up Crystal's email, Sherelle, and I'll try to get that to you if you don't already have it. And then, so if you haven't, let me know if I answered your question. If you have other questions, just let me know. But then moving on to the action items that will be on our agenda. The first is going to be the water treatment plant expansion, design and construction recommendations. So this is going to be actually going through and discussing the proposal, or actually us going through and signing a contract to move forward with Jacobs, who is a company that the board brought in to review the water treatment plant this last year. And they finished that review. They've come up with a new design that should be less expensive to build, less expensive to operate, and should actually work better than the previous design that we had. And so at this point, they finished that work. They have a plan, and so this would us be approving them to move forward with the process as well as managing the construction of that. The recommendation from the staff is that we don't go forward with putting things completely back out to bid again, because it's going to delay the process by at least another few weeks. And we are trying to move this process forward as quickly as possible so that we can get our water treatment plant built, so that we can stop dealing with a lot of the issues we had this year where we're having to do water restrictions and things like that because we're near capacity. So there's a lot of information on that. So I recommend you guys take the time, look through that, look at the information that's been provided by town staff. Chris, I don't want to butcher your last name, Chris, but Chris says, I think it would be wonderful to have a dispensary in town. And Chris, that has been an opinion of several citizens of the town, and I think that's part of the reason they did bring a citizen initiative. And that's I shared this last week, and someone was asking if the board can interfere with that, and I said absolutely not. And I think that's one of the best things, is that you as the citizens do have the right at any time, if you can collect enough signatures from registered voters here in the town of Wellington, to put something to the voters, and then the voters of the town do get to decide that issue. So I would say that that's if that's something that you're looking forward to, that's definitely something that is being brought by the voters. I will ask, please, in the comments, I'd love to answer questions and other things, but please, if you do not go into responding to other people's comments, please, unless you are helping provide an answer. So I would just ask that, please, in the comments, everyone. The next item is going to be the review of office space memorandum of understanding with Wellington Chamber of Commerce. And so the board is just going to be reviewing when things were put in place. It was either at the end of last year or the beginning of this year. I don't remember the exact date, but the prior board did sign a memorandum of understanding where they brought the Chamber of Commerce into the facility, the Harrison House, to be housed with the Economic Development Director, just to help with bringing things together, to help with receiving just a little bit more benefit of all these organizations working alongside the town to help build the economic development of the town. And unfortunately, we no longer have an economic development director, and we're still in the process of hiring a firm. But even when we do hire that firm, they will no longer most likely be actual local here in town. So they would not be able to take advantage of that, and we are running into challenges of space with town employees. So the board is going to be reviewing that and trying and discussing and going over, what direction do we want to go with that? Do we want to continue to have the chamber? And the next item is for Main Street. So do we want to? And so those are kind of together. Do we want to continue to allow the chamber to be in that building and the Main Streets program? Or what do we want to do with that? So that's what those two items are going to be dealing with, is just how do we manage that space. And then the annexation agreement, that's item number 4, and the development agreement for Porter School District. My understanding from going through the report is this is going to, again, recommendation that we push this out because it's still not ready. We're still trying to work out some of the details with Porter School District, as well as with our staff and with the two separate boards. It's something we're still working through, and so that's something that I believe we're actually putting together a team to try and help to move this along a little bit better and try to make sure that we're getting good understanding on all sides. So I know we want to see this come to fruition. Everyone wants to be able to see that high school get wrapped up, and it's looking amazing to see the work that's done. We just want to make sure we'll get it through. So my hope is that we can see that come to fruition soon. And then, so that's item number 4. So my understanding is we're going to be, the recommendation from staff is the board move that forward to another meeting. And then item number 5 is going to be the high service pump replacements for the water treatment plant. So basically we have 2 pumps, as I recall. We have 2 pumps that have been starting to fail, which are again adding to our capacity troubles and problems that we have. And from what I understand, it is already in the budget for us to replace those pumps. So we did find a company who is, I believe we sent out to bid to 3 and only 1 company actually bid exactly what we asked. And so the request of the board is to move forward that company. So we'll be reviewing that and making a decision on replacing those pumps. And then also for the water treatment plant sludge removal, this is another budgeted item, but because of the expense of that, it does have to come before the board. And we will be also going through and reviewing that. And this has to do, again, with the water treatment and pulling some of the impurities out of the water and where that gets put and then draining that out of those ponds. And so those are those last 2 items you'll see on the agenda. Then we will move on to reports. And so attached to this is the treasurer's report. Real quickly, just want to highlight this for you guys. If you did not know this is here, it's at the very bottom of the board packet here. I apologize for the crazy speed of the scrolling, but Tyler Sexton, our interim finance director, actually started putting this together at the request of the board a few months ago, and really just done a phenomenal job to really just help bring a month by month look at how things are going as far as the finances of the town. So if you want to know what has the town brought in, what has the town sent out, and see what those numbers look like, then this is a great way for you to actually be able to go through and look at that and to see what those numbers are. So this is a great tool just to be able to see kind of how things are going throughout the year. So again, that's something I recommend that you guys take a look at. All right, so we'll move on to the next item. Again, any questions you have, please feel free to throw those into the chat. And I did want to just go over the water survey because the last day for us to receive responses to the survey is tomorrow, the 24th of August. So I would encourage you, if you have not yet, if you go to the town website, it should be right there on our front page. This is water rate survey increase. That will take you to the utility rate update page. And this page is incredibly helpful if you are trying to get a better understanding of what is going on. Why are we looking at doing something with water rates, and what is that going to potentially look like? The reason this is so important, the virtual town hall, where we did have a great presentation by Mr. Sexton, and then the board did take and answer questions from the community, and you can actually watch that. So if you were to click on this link here where it says virtual town hall water rate increase, that will take you to the video on the town's YouTube page, where you can actually watch that video, review that video, and get a lot of your questions answered kind of here for yourself. On top of that, here's the link to the water survey. So that's a second link you'll see on the page. You can just click there, and that will take you to the survey so you can put in what your thoughts are, what your opinions are, and get that back to our town staff. And again, the deadline for that is at 5 p.m. tomorrow. So please, if you have not done this yet, please get this through. This is really important because town staff is compiling all of this information, and then they are going to be providing that to the Board of Trustees. So as we're trying to figure out what are we going to do, how is this going to look, what path do we go, we really want to make sure we've heard from experts, we've heard from the town staff, we've gone through things and talked about this ourselves for several months now, but this is the opportunity for us to get the feedback from the public on what are your thoughts and how does that factor into the decision that we make and how we put things in place. So please make sure to get us that opinions and those thoughts, because our staff is then going to compile all that information, and then they will be providing that to the Board of Trustees so that we can then go back and say, okay, what do we need to adjust? What can we adjust? Or what does this need to look like? And then below that are also the different presentations. So you can see the presentation that Mr. Sexton used at the Town Hall. These are some of the different presentations that the board has seen throughout the year. So everything that we have seen that's been provided to us is right here for you guys to pull up and look through for yourself. And then down here at the bottom, we have several questions that have been asked. Now, we've actually gotten a lot more answered that are on here. So if you click the View All at the bottom here, it will actually take you to the frequently asked questions, which we have 15 questions so far that have been asked. And you can just click on the question and it will pop up the answer. And So you can just look and see what are the answers for some of these different questions that you may have asked or you may have seen asked before. You have that opportunity to ask that. So I would just again encourage you guys, please take the time to go through, let your voice be heard. I do have let people know I am happy to answer any questions. I've already talked to several citizens one-on-one who've had questions about the water rate and why we're seeing such a drastic increase that we're looking at, and I've really done the best I could to help with answering those. So I encourage you guys, please be engaged, let us know so that we can try to work through these things, because it's as tough as it is something we definitely do need to be able to work through, and we want to make sure that we do this to the best of our abilities. And it's not, I don't think on anyone's got an expectation that it's going to be amazing and wonderful, but we have to make sure that we find the right answer here. So with that, if you have any questions on the water, I would be happy to answer those for you as well. If there's something that you had a specific question on, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. I also know there's been just something in the Q&A. I do want to open things up before we wrap up here. So if you do have any questions for me that are not on things I've talked about already, please feel free to throw those in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer those. And I just wanted to address this, something that did come up this week in the questions that have been asked is about just with the amount of development that we've had going on in town, and what does that affect, and why is the town continuing to build, and they're asking the citizens to make this huge sacrifice in terms of what they're going to be paying for water. And I just wanted to let you guys know, as this is something that we're very aware of. Obviously with this board, we've been going together since April. We've been working at this for 4 months now, and we're trying to do the best that we can with the situation that we're coming into. This water issue is something that has been ongoing for several years. Thankfully, the prior board did start a lot of this work moving, which a lot of people may not realize, but a lot of the things that we're doing now are directly based on the work that the prior board did start within the last 2 years. So they really did help give us a lot of the information that we needed to actually start moving things forward. But among those things, to the specific question of that balance of continued development with the rising cost of water, and that was something that the board actually did address at our last regular board meeting with the cash in lieu policy, and just addressing some of the ways that we've been doing things and really bringing that more in line to make sure that we're spreading that cost equally between the development side as well as spreading it out among the existing residents, so that we're not just putting all of that pressure of the increases in the needs and the cost of water is not all falling on the citizens anymore. And so we did make the decision, and there has been a lot of talk about, well, is it going to be too much, or is it where it is? And it is a lot, but the challenge that we're running into right now is the cost of our water has gone up very significantly across the board. And so the board really is trying to find that balance of where is that balance. And I don't know that, from my opinion, I don't know if we found that perfect spot yet, but we are definitely working towards trying to figure out where do we put things and what is the right place for that to be. And we are, I would say, from my opinion, being very cognizant of, we need to make sure that it's not all on one side or the other. We don't want all of that going on to the developers. We don't want all of that going on to the citizens. We want to make sure that we've got that mix in the right place, because it's all of us together as a community that make things work. So I just wanted to let you know it's something, because I know people have brought that up to me consistently over the last several months, is that this is a concern. Why aren't you addressing it? And I just want to make sure people know that this is definitely something that the board is aware of, and the board is working on doing to the best of our ability. So just be aware that we are aware of it. We are trying to find that right balance point. It's not a simple fix. It's something that we've got to figure out, and I believe we're moving the right direction, but there's going to potentially be some tweaks along the way to make sure that we get that correct. The other issue that has been brought up to me over this last week was specifically in concern with the bulk water treatment, or bulk water dispenser, and how that has been continued to be used by construction, which are not supposed to be utilizing that. That is something that the town staff is keeping on top of. They are working on trying to figure out the best ways to get this dealt with. At least in one case where there's a company that has been offending on that, they've been talked to, they've been warned, and then there are actually other actions that are being taken beyond that, because it is something that we are aware of and we are not allowing. So I would just ask that continue to let us know when you do see this happen. I know it may feel like, oh, nothing, just let us know. And I've had citizens reach out to me, whether it's through email or whether it's through whatever means. If you want to call me, it doesn't really matter how you get a hold of me, let me know. And our town staff has been great, because all the times it's been brought to my attention, I've reached out to our town administrator, and she's already on top of it. She's already working on it. They've already been moving on it, and which is great. But it really does help to make sure, because maybe there's something that you saw that our staff wasn't aware of, and then we can make sure that they are aware of it so it can be dealt with. So just want to say thank you guys for those of you who have been reaching out, and just ask you to continue to do so. I am one person and in one place, and I can only see a certain amount of things. So when there are things that you see that are issues or concerns, that really is something that's important to me, is that I'm able to help make sure that those concerns are heard. That was one of the things I said from the very beginning, is I want to really help be the voice of the people of our town, and really encourage that communication between the citizens, between our staff, and between the Board of Trustees. So I just appreciate that you guys have started doing that, and just ask that you would continue to do that. All right, so at this point, hopefully you guys can hear me. I have no idea how the audio is coming out on this, but I don't see any questions in the chat. So I am going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Just glad you guys were able to make it. Just as a reminder, we have moved to that 3:30 p.m. time frame, which we will be remaining at for the foreseeable future. But Jessica Brown asked, are we issuing fines for construction companies using bulk water? Jessica, the answer to that is yes. I am not specifically involved in that process, but I have been told that there have already been fines issued for companies using the bulk water. So yes, they are. When we see it and find out who's doing it, that's why I say it's helpful when you guys send us pictures, things like that, so we know who is doing it if our staff wasn't present to catch that. But yes, we are issuing fines for construction companies using the bulk water. So don't use the bulk water unless you are a citizen. If you're a construction company, you should not be utilizing that. But to answer Jessica's question, yes, we absolutely are issuing fines for that. And we'll give just a minute more here before we wrap up, if you guys have any questions. So just a reminder, our upcoming board meeting is this next Tuesday. So I would highly recommend you guys tune in at 6:30 on Zoom. And again, if there are issues that you want to be brought up that are not on the agenda, you can absolutely do that. If there are issues that are on the agenda that you have an opinion on, the beauty of this is you do have the opportunity on each item of our action items. You do have the opportunity to share public comment and to share your thoughts or opinions with the board, and really do value that from you guys. All right, Jessica, you're very welcome. Well, with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up for today. I do look forward to hopefully seeing you guys at the board meeting on Tuesday, and I look forward to also chatting with you guys next Sunday. All right, have a great rest of the day.